What did you write, David?
So I can tell that the first thing the robot is going to have to do to paint the ceiling is climb the ladder. So I'm first going to apply the climb ladder operator. That's going to result in the robot being on the ladder, but the state of the ladder and the ceiling haven't changed. Then now that the robot is on the ladder, it'll apply the paint ceiling operator, which results in painted ceiling being added to the state and the dry ceiling being negated.
That's good, David. So this is the structure of the final plan. But another question to ask here is, how might the robot come up with such a plan? So let's do the same thing that we had done here earlier. We're going to use goal as a control knowledge to select an operator. So we know that we want to have the ceiling painted. So the question then becomes, of the available operators, which operator has a post condition painted ceiling? And the only operator whose post condition is painted ceiling is the operator paint ceiling. So we select that operator. So we're working backwards here. Painted ceiling was our goal condition. We selected paint ceiling as the operator. But this paint ceiling now has some preconditions. One of the preconditions is on robot ladder, which is different from on robot floor in the initial state. So now the question becomes, how can we achieve the sub-goal of robot on ladder? If we use that sub-goal as the control knowledge, then we want to select an operator whose post conditions will match this sub-goal. And that operator is climb ladder. So now we apply climb ladder here, and the preconditions of climb ladder match this initial state. And that is how we get to this plan, climb ladder and paint ceiling. So we are working backwards using goal knowledge as control knowledge to select between operators.
So note that we just made a connection back to problem reduction that we talked about right after means-ends analysis. Ashok in his description talked about the sub-goal of getting up the ladder. When we talked about problem reduction earlier, we talked about the need to break big problems down into smaller problems, but we didn't talk exactly about how an agent would go about doing that. Here we see one way in which an agent would go about actually identifying those sub-goals to accomplish in order to accomplish the final goal.